So last week, we explored this idea, the ideal medium mech in Battletech. And we're going to do light. We're going to look at heavies. And of course, we have to look at assaults because I love assault mechs. But the idea was to build this Tactica checklist, this checklist of when you're looking through the tech manuals, what are some of the questions that you're asking? What are some of the points that you're looking at to get the most out of the tonnage that a medium mech is directed towards? So let's turn this over to vehicles. And I'm going to divide the vehicles. We're just going to look at tanks in this vlog. We're going to kind of push out VTOLs, and we're going to push out air support, and we're going to push out some of the static field guns and infantry proper. We're just going to look at tanks and some of the considerations. So for me, the equation is battle value versus movement. Battle value versus stock, starting movement value. The greater the battle value, the more guns, the more tonnage. Let's look at a behemoth tank, right? 100-ton crazy tank. A tank that would make, if we poured over to Ogre, it's going to make an Ogre cry. Massive, massive tank. Lots of battle value, high battle value. I mean, even for a tank, a mech, if we took that configuration and ported it over to a mech, take off the treads, slap on 2 legs, you're in almost clan territory battle value with what you'd have to adjust. So certainly it's less, but it's a lot for a tank. The challenge is the movement value of the behemoth. And I love the behemoth. I've got 2 in my collection. I regularly play them. The movement is urban mech. Urban mech. It is slow. And the challenge with this, a mech more or less has its movement value consistent. That's one of the powers inherent in mechs. If you get your leg blown off, you're out. In rare cases, you could take internal damage to the legs and it cuts your movement. But for the most part, you're moving. You're moving. Tanks get chewed up through motive hits, both head-on and side. If you can get caught side, the motive hits reduce they stack. They reduce very, very quickly your movement. Side point, pushed up to my archive here, my Battletech playlist, Warrior VTOL helicopters. Fast-moving, really, really cheap battle value, and attacking the sides of tanks to chew down their motive hits. Fantastic. And I've gone into more Tactica. I'm giving you permission right now to go out and purchase 2 to 4 warriors. You can tell your SO I've given you complete permission, and you can blame it on me. These are amazing units. So going back to the behemoth tank, you're going to take motive hits, and it's going to get reduced to like 1 inch to no inches to immobilized really, really fast. That's battle value that is not necessarily spent, because if it gets immobilized early on, a behemoth out in open space is just not going to work. It's going to get immobilized. In a city where you can hide and move, that's where it excels. So I look at the battle value and I look at the movement. If it's a higher battle value for some reason, but it still has good stock movement, that's kind of the sliding area. So that's the first checklist. And of course, in Battletech, battle value is the starting point, because you want to get the most tech, the most toys on the table. You got to cover all your bases. Literally, you got to look at your core Tactica. Second, turrets. Fixed weapons versus rotating weapons. I want to try and take tanks, in my opinion, with a turret, with the primary or some weapons in the turret. We can have hull-mounted weapons. Now, there's some tanks. I would classify a missile carrier. Technically, it's support, but we're going to throw it in as a tank. True armor fanatics are like Fritz. You just committed massive heresy. I know, but this is just kind of a starting checklist. Short-range missile carriers, long-range missile carriers, the dedicated ones, they're not on a turret. Now, you have something like the Striker, which I really like because it has both the short range and long range. It's on a turret, but it doesn't have the spam factor that it mounts. Looking at fixed weapons, often what you'll see is a tank that in the turret, it might have 2 autocannons, it might have lasers. In the hull, facing one way, maybe machine guns, maybe long-range missiles, maybe some short-range missiles. going back to motive hits, the tank's ability to have a turret is huge. So at least if I have some long-range weapons or medium-range weapons in the turret, if I get immobilized, I'm still in the game. This is also important, I think, having a turret, and it doesn't disqualify non-turret vehicles, but it's important to have a turret because let's say I'm facing down your lance. You've got a heavy and a medium coming up straight towards me. I want to keep the front of my tank facing you. I want to keep that hull down front facing you. I've got the most armor, and it's going to at least cut down on the motive hits. But then you've got your light mech trying to flank me from the left, or maybe even from the rear. I don't want to turn and face, but I want to take the shot of that light mech because it's close. I can maybe cripple it, maybe take it out, and maybe the heavy mechs aren't in close range yet. If I have a turret, I can turn it to face that light mech. That light mech has to worry. A little bit. Think of the Shrek PPC carrier. I love the PPC carrier on there. If I face that PPC carrier, well, this was from a recent game. I had 2, didn't have the battle value for 3. I can do up to 4. But I got to show a little restraint. So I had 2 because we want the redundancy. We want them working together. That's 6 PPC shots, 3 chained every single turn. That's no baby cakes. That's good. So I have them up on this hill, and I'm firing on some Davians, and I'm just pounding on this Wolverine. I'm like pow, 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 and a spider. This spider who had been making its way around the flank, the table. Turn 1. Turn 2, turn 3. I see it running. It's running fast. I know it's going to get there sooner or later. It's getting in range to outflank my Shreks. And I had an infantry screen there, foot infantry, but Spider was moving fast enough and stayed out of range. Both of those Shreks, only one of them did because I really wanted to pound on that Wolverine. One of the Shreks was able to keep the hull facing the Wolverine and the other Davian assets, including a LRM carrier. Turn the turret, fire on the spider. So there are going to be times tactically that the turret gives you that flexibility. The last piece would be trying to have a dedicated vehicle that could pull multi-roles. Simply because the battle value buy-in is much less compared to a mech. And if I have that tactical flexibility, if I can build in and boost that redundancy with tanks, then that frees up battle value for more specialized mechs. All right, Fritz, give us an example to take us out. Partisan tanks. I'm giving you permission right now to go pick up 2 partisan tanks. You've got the quad autocannons. Armor, a lot of people say like the armor is light. Armor's not bad for the battle value and the tonnage. But with the range and the DACA on it, the 4 quads, it's anti-air. It's great anti-air. If your opponent's bringing air assets, you don't have to engage with your mechs, or you can also utilize your air assets. But even if there's no air, the range, the firepower, just the dice downstream on the table for low battle value buy-in, now I don't have to take autocannons. I can put that blackjack aside and spend the points into something else. They're nice little tanks. So that's kind of an extreme example where, and that's just with regular slug ammo. I mean, that's not playing any specialized ammo, which takes it to a different Tactica perspective. That's a dedicated tank that can do 2 different roles very, very well. That saves a lot of battle value. That's the checklist. That's kind of how I evaluate flipping through the tech manuals and at least starting to build the question of what pieces do I want to take and where do we want to go?